Hi again, and welcome to ManchTalk. I'm Tammy Simmons. I'm your host, and I'm glad you're watching. So, yay for spring. I mean, finally, it seems like our weather has finally moved out of, we're no longer going to worry about winter, and we're slowly working into that, oh my God, it's summer mode. Warm out there today. Tuesdays when I tape, a chance of thunderstorms. Thunderstorms usually mean summer in my book. Looks like, we're on the right track with Memorial Day coming up just another 2 weeks away, a week and a half away. It's wonderful to just see the green trees and all the shrubbery green and everything just so green all of a sudden, as opposed to just having to look at snow. So I have always said in the past, I wonder how I'm going to come up with subject matter for each show each week. I could just drone on about the same old, which sometimes I do feel like I drone on about the same old. But usually it's either a newspaper article or a conversation I have with somebody or something like that that makes me think, geez, I should really talk about that because I don't think people talk about it enough. So this week what happened was Dan sent me a link. I forget what website it was from, about an article about the pension solvency in Illinois. So you wonder, what the heck am I talking about Illinois on a show that's supposed to be about Manchester? We'll get to that. So, for those of you who know, the Federal Reserve has 5 different branches across the country. And the branch, the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago, that oversees Illinois, proposed to the state of Illinois that they levy a special property assessment tax to solve their ongoing pension insolvency. So for all those people in Illinois that are getting public pensions, their pension fund is woefully underfunded and it's simply not solvent. So the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago has proposed an across-the-board 1% of actual property value on every home in the state of Illinois. Now, when you hear about property tax bills, you hear $24.33 per thousand and all that. Well, it really does come down to just straight percentages, but for some reason that's not how we talk about it. In terms of this special levy, it would just be a 1% flat on the value of the home. So a home that's worth $200,000 in Illinois would pay a $2,000 special assessment tax. $500,000 home would pay a $5,000 special assessment tax. $1 million home, which I'm sure there's plenty of in Illinois because Chicago's there, they'd pay a $10,000 special assessment tax. And all of this is to try to repair the hole that's in Illinois' public pension fund. So now keep in mind that Illinois already has the highest property taxes in the country. They pay 2.6% property taxes. So that $200,000 home, they're paying about $5,340 per year, every year, property taxes already. That compares 2.67% with New Hampshire, who's also pretty high up there on the property tax list. We pay 2.4%. Now, granted, we don't have a personal income tax, and we don't have a sales tax. So, we just pay this 2.4% tax, and that's pretty much it, except for, local property taxes, or local, county taxes and things like that. So, anyways, in Illinois, it's 2.67%, so $5,340 for that $200,000 home. Now add to that their 6.3% state sales tax, and then up to 2.75% county sales tax, and a 4.75% flat income tax, and add all those up, and suddenly New Hampshire's 2.4% property tax, and only property tax, doesn't really sound so bad, does it? So when people here say, oh, property taxes are too high, I always say, yeah, but we don't pay anything else. And this is, at least it's something where you see a bill and you know you're paying the tax. With sales tax and an income tax, I think people just don't feel it. When you just take it out of their paycheck every week, they simply don't feel the pain enough to really appreciate how much money's being taken from them. And when you add 7%, to every purchase, and it's like, oh, so instead of $1, it's $1.07, instead of 10, it's 10.70. You get really comfortable paying those small amounts here and there, not adding up how much you're paying over the year. I grew up in upstate New York, and trust me, everybody just was used to the concept that everybody paid sales tax on everything. I moved to New Hampshire, and every time I go to another state that's got sales tax, which is most of them, it's always bizarre because, you go and you buy, say, a six-pack of beer and you spend $10 on it. You got to pay an 8% tax, and you got to pay a bottle bill and all these other things. But anyways, I've gotten off subject. Illinois, 2.6% property taxes already, which is $5,340 a year for that $200,000 homes. And the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago thinks there should be this flat 1% special assessment tax on those same homes. So they would like to add $2,000 more to a $200,000 home. So that instead of $5,340 a year, they'd like that home to pay $7,340. And the worst part, it's not a one-time thing. They're proposing that this happen for the next 30 years. That's insane. In order to make the Illinois pension system, which is apparently so woefully unfunded and unsolvent, they would like to tax a $200,000 home to an additional $2,000 every year for 30 years. Now, granted, that's Illinois. And, they're obviously in far worse shape than we are. Or at least I hope they're in far worse shape than we are. But here in New Hampshire, we have our own public pension insolvency problem. The New Hampshire retirement system released a report that's of a statutory commission about the long-term viability of the state pension system here in New Hampshire. Excuse me. In the summary, it talks about how despite our below average funded status, so we admit that yes, we are below average funded status because we're only currently funded at 61.8%. The New Hampshire retirement system's costs are low in comparison to the national average. Well, that's good, I guess. We're doing better than the national average. But wait, isn't Illinois part of that national average? Isn't California part of that national average? Aren't states that are on the verge of bankruptcy part of that national average? How does that make me feel better? So we're doing really, really bad, but we're not doing as atrocious as some other states. So, okay, go. Yay, good job. The people in Illinois are literally facing an insane amount of taxation that they have no control over, to fund a pension system that they probably have no control over. And to compare New Hampshire and say, well, we're doing better than most, that simply does not give me the warm and fuzzy. It does not make me feel good about it. Now, the New Hampshire retirement system, for those of you who don't know, they provide retirement, disability, and death benefits to about 48,000 active members. 48,000 active members. Those are people who are actually employed and paying into the system. And they have 35,000 pension recipients. So those are either the people who actually worked for their state or their beneficiaries. And they have those employees and pensioners come from over 470 local government employers in addition to the state of New Hampshire. So that would be the city of Manchester. Now, there's two groups. There's group one, which is the teachers and the state employees, and then there's group two, which are the police and the firefighters. Now, in fiscal year 2017, those 48,000 members, those 48,000 employees, which that alone should disturb you, that there are 48,000 employees in the state of New Hampshire that work for the government. But I digress. Those 48,000 contributing members in fiscal year 2017 paid in, and the trust paid out $706.3 million in pension funds in fiscal year 2017. Now, at the end of fiscal year 2017, the fund was only 61.8% funded, with an unfunded liability of, wait for it, $5.04 billion. We have over $5 billion hole in our pension dam, and I don't know, I guess we're just letting the water keep running out, and we hope that the water going into the fund is going in faster than it's flowing out this hole. So why is this? I don't think it's any secret why private sector pensions have gone away and been replaced with IRAs, 401ks, private entity funds. It's because they're not solvent. People are retiring younger and living much, much longer. The math just doesn't work. This makes our pensions unsustainable. The private sector moved away from them and switched their employees to a 401k system. I know, I think it's Osram, Sylvania, just this past year, took a huge amount of money and took it and put it into the 401k system so that they could end their pensions because they're just unsustainable. It was worth it for them to take this one-time hit in their profits, but they have profits to take it from. The government only has you and I to take it from. So we just don't do it anymore. Pensions, like I said, pension recipients are retiring younger. I mean, you hear about it all the time. Police and fire are retiring in their 50s, and then they're living to be, 80, 90? I mean, you can't afford to pay, a former employee $20, $40, $60, $80,000 a year for 10, 20, 30 years. It just does not add up. So anyways, this commission put out this 147-page report, which was far more than I wanted to spend reading. So I just browsed through some of it, and I did catch some interesting tidbits right in the first few pages. The commission recommends to the legislature that they fund a one-time cost of living payment of $500 per employee. On the surface, okay, because apparently there hasn't been a cost of living increase to the pensions, not to the employee's paycheck, to the pensions since 2010. So not only are we expecting to fund these pensions, but we also give those pension recipients a raise, or at least we used to. We haven't since 2010, probably because we don't have the money to. But the commission recommends that the legislature do this one-time $500 cost of living adjustment. Well, that's great, except for there's 48,000 members. So are we going to spend $24 million to do an increase to all of their funds? Or is this for the 35,000 pension recipients, in which case it's still $17 million. So this is millions and millions and millions of dollars that this commission is recommending the legislature push through it. Except for, where's the state of New Hampshire going to get these millions of dollars from? We have a requirement to have a balanced budget. The state does not have the mechanism to tax outside of fees and whatnot. Our tax bill, when you look at it, it's made up of local property taxes, and those local property taxes cover the Manchester, the city of Manchester's municipal side and then our school side. And then there's county taxes, and that covers the county jails and the nursing homes and the sheriff's department. And then there's a statewide property tax, but that goes to education. All of the money that the state of New Hampshire has to come from other sources of revenue. That's fishing license fees, that's your registration fees, that's your dog license fees, that's licensing nurses, all these different licenses and requirements to pay all these different little amounts. That's the only place the state of New Hampshire gets their money from, that and the federal government. But that's your money too. So I don't understand how it isn't more common for people to be outraged about the fact that we have a pension system here in New Hampshire, despite the fact that it's doing better than the awful pension systems in other states, that is failing, that doesn't add up, that can't be sustained, and no one is, instead of requiring this commission to, instead of having a statutory commission to figure out how to shift the shells so that maybe the pension system will be solvent a little longer, how about we have a statutory commission that requires a commission to find a way to shift from, I want to make sure I get the words right because I always throw it backwards, from defined benefit contributions, which are pensions, to defined contribution plans, which would be 401ks. There has got to be a way to come up with a plan, whether it's a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, a 20-year plan, at least a plan that where we can shift our public pensions away from this pension system to a 401k system where those numbers could be legitimately budgeted year in, year out. And when the employee leaves and goes to another employer, or the employee leaves and retires, they take what was put into the fund with them and they choose how quickly to draw on it, and so forth. If they want to take all their money in the first 5 years of retirement, that's their business. If they want to drag out whatever fund they put in to last them that 30 years that they're going to be retired, well, that's their business too. I just know that it can't be on the backs of the taxpayers. It just doesn't add up. Because if we don't do something to fix this soon, what we're going to have is a Federal Reserve Bank in the Northeast telling the state of New Hampshire that maybe we have to impose a 1%, extra tax just to make the hole in the pension dam closed again. 1%, that doesn't sound so bad. It's just, $2,000. It's only for 30 years. You can afford that, right? It's frustrating beyond belief. So this brings me to another government program, policy that I think needs to be addressed, and nobody ever seems to do it. And I do think there are some aldermen that are currently looking at this and saying this just doesn't make any sense anymore. It's this crazy policy of bonuses, or what we keep calling severance bonuses, when city employees retire. Now, you hear about it all the time in departments' budgets. We have the money for this, but we don't have the $250,000 we need for severances. We have the money for this in our budget, but we don't have the $500,000 for the anticipated severances. And I always think, what is the severances? Why are we paying people to retire? How about people retire and they go on their way? They're getting this pension that we can't afford to pay. Why are we also giving them these bonuses? So I asked a little, and for the most part, these severance payments are unused vacation and sick time. They're paid time off that they've accumulated and not used at the time of their retirement. Well, so you think about that. I don't think people should lose their time off. I think if part of your salary package is 3 weeks vacation and 10 sick days, well, then you should take 3 weeks vacation and 10 sick days. That's part of your compensation package, is that instead of working 52 weeks out of the year, we're going to pay you for 52 weeks, and instead you can take 5 of those weeks off. That's how compensation works. Well, but let's just do the math on how this seems to be working with our city employees. Let's say Joe's a city employee and he makes $50,000 a year. That's $192.30 each day before taxes. So Joe gets, say, 3 weeks vacation and 5 paid sick days a year, because to be honest, I have absolutely no idea how much vacation or sick time we give our city employees. So Joe's healthy. He doesn't use any of his sick time, and he only went on that one 10-day cruise, so he still has 5 days vacation left, and he never used those 5 sick days, so he's got these 10 paid days off that he hasn't used in year 1. But that's okay, because Joe's going to just roll them over to year 2 and use them later. That seems okay, right? Because, why he shouldn't lose his vacation time. Except for the budget for Joe's vacation in year 1 was $50,000. And that includes those 20 days off. So now, come year 2, when the budget again for Joe is $50,000, he now has those 2 weeks off and the 5 weeks off that he normally gets. He now has 7 weeks off. And if Joe decides to take all those weeks because he's been sick this year and his family's going to Disney or whatever, now we've got an employee that isn't there 7 of the 52 weeks. Well, we better hire somebody else, because we're going to need another full-time person to cover all these vacations, because we can't just not have Joe's position filled for 7 weeks out of a year. So Joe doesn't use all of it. And then in year 3, so now Joe's taken the 10 days and it's rolled over, and now in year 3 he's banked up even more. That's all fine and dandy, but the budget for Joe is still just been $50,000. So now, let's think about it this way. Let's say Joe just gets a 1% increase every year. The vacation he earns in year 1 and rolled over to year 2 and rolled over to year 3, when he takes it in year 3, he's not getting paid $192.30 a day for it. He's getting paid $196.15 a day for it, even though it's technically earnings that were budgeted at $192.30. So now take all those numbers and the possibility of how we don't have money in our budget, and multiply it times year after year after year for Joe, and then multiply Joe by thousands, because this is happening with all of our city employees. And we wonder why every year departments are coming to the city and to the aldermen and saying we need more tax dollars for our budget because we can't afford the severance payments. There is a pretty easy solution to this. Don't let people roll their vacation and sick time over. If the benefit package allows for X number of vacation days and X number of sick days, how about the employees in the city take those vacation days or they take those sick days in the year that they're budgeted, not at the end when they're retiring. How about in the year that they're budgeted? So when Joe is budgeted for $50,000 a year, $192.30 a day in that year, Joe will get paid for 52 weeks at $192.30 a day, period. We won't have to worry about how we're going to pay Joe next year for time he didn't take last year, and then how we're going to pay Joe 2 years from now for the time he didn't take the year before and the year before that, and so on and so forth. These are policies that on the surface seem fine, seem reasonable, but the math just doesn't work. We've got pensions that are insolvent, and there's really no way of fixing them other than forcing you, the taxpayer, to somehow put more money in out of your home budget to fix the gaping hole there. There's unpaid sick time and vacation time that is allowed to accrue that the budgets never seem to have the money for, and then they threaten to have to lay people off to be able to cover severance. And this is year after year after year, yet nobody seems to stop and look at this policy and say this simply doesn't work. We've got Yarger Decker that's supposed to be a merit-based system that's supposed to give merit-based increases to the people who are going above and beyond, that has instead become an automatic merit increase based on attending, not on merit. We have longevity increases. We've got all this craziness, and it just goes on year after year after year. So your property tax bill goes up, and you get nothing new for it. Your trash doesn't get picked up any faster or more often. The snow gets plowed at the same rate and as it always does. Nothing changes except for the math gets worse and worse and worse, and we just kick the can down the road and down the road and down the road. It seems the only entity that doesn't seem to think there's any problem with this is the unions. So I simply do not understand how more taxpayers are outraged by these policies. So enough about crazy tax policy. I want to remind people that this Saturday, May 19th, is the Bedford Garden Club's annual plant sale that takes place at Bedford Town Hall at 70 Bedford Center Road from 9 in the morning to 11. That's this Saturday, May 19th. Also this Saturday up in Goffstown at 8 a.m., they are having their Goffstown Community Garden plant sale. That will take place in Goffstown Common and right there on Main Street, and that starts at 8 a.m. this Saturday. Then this Sunday is the New Horizons Walk Against Hunger. I saw them putting out signs for it today on my way in. The Manchester Republican Committee has a walk team. We'd love to have your support. You can go to manchestergop.com and click on our calendar and click on the walk, and it should show you right there how you can donate to fight hunger in our community via the Manchester Republican Committee. That walk takes place on Sunday the 20th, this coming Sunday. It kicks off at Veterans Park at noon. It is dog friendly. We've got a great group of Republicans walking together as a team, and we would love to have your support. Next Saturday, I think that would be next Saturday. I guess we're 2 Saturdays from now. On June 2nd is the annual yard sale put on by Dartmouth Hitchcock up there at 100 Hitchcock Way. I guess that would be Ward 6. This runs from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. And what it is people from all over the place rent spaces, so it's a huge yard sale. Great event here in the city. That is Saturday, June 2nd, from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Also on June 2nd, if you missed the plant sales this coming weekend, on June 2nd, you can go on over to 490 Dunbarton Road to the animal shelter, and they'll be having their 12th annual plant sale. It is an amazing sale for an amazing cause. The animal shelter does a great service to the community by taking in strays and rehoming them and stuff like that. That plant sale runs from 9 in the morning till 1. That's Saturday, June 2nd. If I don't see you this weekend in Bedford, I'll probably see you there on 2nd. And I wanted to also mention that on coming up on June 7th, so a couple weeks away, the Audubon Society over there in Massabesic is having an event called Bat Brigade. They're going to have a biologist come and talk about the status of bats in New Hampshire and how they do this counting to keep track of things, and how they help eat insects and whatnot. It's a free event. It is on, I think that was a Thursday? It was Thursday, June 7th at the Massabesic Audubon Center. It is free and starts at 7 p.m. in the evening. You can get more information on that at NHAudubon, AUDUBON.org. The Manchester GOP meets this week, Wednesday, May 16th. As we do every month on the third Wednesday, we meet 6 p.m. at Murphy's Tap Room. If you're interested in coming out and seeing how you can help elect fiscal conservatives to the state house and to county positions and whatnot, you can come on out and join us. We also have a great event honoring former Mayor Ray Wazorek on Thursday, June 14th. We'll be celebrating Ray's 90th birthday and all the great things he's done for Manchester and the state of New Hampshire. You can purchase tickets to that Ray Wazorek celebration by going to Wiz's 90th. That's WIZSN. Oh, let's start that over. It's Wiz's WIZS 90th 90th .eventbrite.com, or you can go to manchestergop.com and click on our calendar and find the event, and you can get there that way. That's really all I have this week. The weather's looking great. We've got a mixed bag of sun and rain, and some temps up near the 80s, some nights down in the 40s, but it should be a great time. Get out and check out some of these events, or just go for a walk. Don't forget, you got the bike path, you've got Doors Pond up at Livingston Park, you've got the Massabesic has a great walk path. You can walk around Nut Pond. There's so many great places to get out and walk. Or maybe just Elm Street. Check out some of the great restaurants right here in downtown Manchester. Whatever it is, get out of your house. Enjoy this weather. Winter was way too long to stay indoors. And until next week, have a wonderful time and have a great weekend. Bye.